Hi, it's Danielle Smith with Alberta Enterprise Group. I'm collaborating with Common Sense Calgary to interview candidates for the October 18th municipal election in Calgary. And joining me now is your candidate for Ward 3, Jun Lin. Jun, thanks so much for being with me today.
Thank you having this opportunity for me. I really appreciate that.
Oh, my pleasure. So this is the second time around for you. So why is it you want to run for council again?
Oh, so the main reason I want to run for this time is that the job market and economy is really, tough in Calgary. And I have a very strong background in finance and business. I have MBA degree and also CPA accounting designation. And I work for a Crown corporation in oil and gas industries since 2008. So I can definitely contribute to bring investment back, diversify the economy. Hopefully, we can generate more jobs and better jobs to make Calgary prosperous again.
All right. Well, the person who's the incumbent is Jody Gondek. She's not running in that riding, but she is running for mayor. When you look back on the last 4 years, is there anything you would have done differently?
Definitely, I'm running to be Wall Street councillor, while Jody has been running for mayor for the last 4 years already. But one thing I have to mention that Jody has done a good job is that she added traffic calming measures in Wall Street, which is quite good.
So it's a
And
positive. Yeah.
yeah, it's positive. And overall, what I can think of, something that I will do differently than Jody is two things. The first thing is how to handle the Citrine Green Line. Okay, as you know, she is a big, proponent of this project, but she hasn't, fight hard enough to bring the Citrine Green Line to Wall Street to the Calgary North area. And I will definitely, be a big voice in City Council, make sure there's a timeline that the Citrine Green Line will go to the north where the demand is.
Before I move on to talking in more detail about a couple of the issues you just raised, when you go door to door and you're hearing from your constituents, what are the three top issues? I heard Green Line being one. What are a couple of the other issues you're hearing about?
Oh, actually, the most important, issue I think facing Wall Street right now is the job and economy.
Okay.
And you can imagine sometimes people telling me that look at the whole street, half street, they are jobless. Or they're telling me that, you know what, I have to drive to Edmonton every week to work there. There's no job in Calgary. And there's a lot of trades in Calgary, in Wall Street, and there's no big projects at all, right?
Yeah.
So how can they survive? A lot of people have to go out of town to find a job, like plumbing, the electrician, roofing, whatever.
Well, since that's your biggest issue, why don't we start there and tell us what you would do to address the issue of the economy?
As you can see, downtown vacancy rate is rocked high, more than 30% based on the recent, data. And this is the big threat that the tax burden is switching from the commercial side to residential side.
Yeah.
We need to bring in more industry and
Mhm.
companies to downtown. Not only the energy industry. Don't get me wrong, because I work for energy industry more than 13 years. I understand the energy industry is still a very important part, a big engine, the main engine for Alberta economy and for Calgary, right? Based on data, I think after 3 decades, diversified economy, we still have more than 50% or close to 60%. Economy is related with energy industry,
Yeah.
right? But we can do more on the energy industry at the same time, diversify to, let's say, high technology, pharmacy, logistics, filming, all kinds of other, industry who is more stable than energy industry. During last 13 years, as you can see, when oil price go up and down, we suffer a lot, right? Already 3 times. And the latest, recession is so prolonged, 7 years. When the oil price crunch in September, around September 2014. And then during the last 2 years, the pandemic. So even the oil price, recovered quite a lot, comparing the lowest, level, the oil price doubled almost. It's around, $66 or $70 per barrel, WTI. But have you seen any, more, recruiting in the energy
Mm.
industry? No. And actually, because those big companies, they want to, have the synergy, they want to, save the cost to boost up their, share price on the stock market, there's more mergers, right? The recent big one is between Husky and Synovus. And
Hmm.
sadly, I can see the whole building of, former Husky building, the two buildings, is almost empty.
Right.
Just like, a couple of years ago, Nexon building was empty.
Yeah. Well, as you're very pragmatic about it, and knowing how much the new jobs are going to be driven in other industries. But tell me what you think is the best way to attract those new industries, because there's lots you can do. You can reduce taxes, you can give tax holidays, you can reduce regulation, you can reduce red tape, you can limit the size of, or the length of time for permits. You can, with Calgary Economic Development, they got $100 million to do business attraction by giving money to particular firms. Give me some idea of the kind of approach you would favor.
I think the most important thing is the confidence from the investors, from those, new industry and the companies. In order to gain their confidence, is that we make sure there's a business-friendly environment and policy in place, right?
Mhm.
And also make sure it's a stable environment and it's a predictable. If something there's uncertainty there, even you give them a very good terms and conditions, they still hesitate to come,
Mhm.
right? So we need to, make sure our tax regime, structure is competitive. We are not trying to, just give away a lot of free stuff, right? We want to make sure it's competitive, that we can attract those investments. That's first thing. The second thing is that we need to reduce, red tape in all the levels, okay, including the municipal government levels, administration and council levels. And the last thing is that we want to make sure the whole, Calgary, we understand what's going on here, and hopefully we can foster or rebuild this kind of, environment that the investor feel very comfortable to come back. If you see those, political, swing back and forth, left and right, or sometimes, when they see there's all kinds of, internal fight in council, it's a very bad image.
Right.
What people think, okay, you can't get things done. So how can you, anticipate the people will come and to invest and try to earn some money? That's why I said that confidence is very important. My background is finance, business, accounting. So I always, go back to this. It's about, confidence.
Well, you said something about taxes. About I get the impression that you want to attract more business in as a way of raising more revenues, and you've identified the issue of this tax shift that has occurred. What do you think the approach should be on how taxes are set? Do you think they need to be frozen for a time? Do you think they need to be reduced, or do you think that the focus should just be on new generation of revenue from attracting new businesses and new residents?
I think for the municipal level, what we can control, from the tax perspective, it's mainly the property tax, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the rest is just all kinds of fees,
Yeah.
charge that the municipal can, apply on. So for the property tax, I'm quite, physical, responsible and conservative. So my idea is that we need to, keep the tax rate, low. And ideally, because of such a long, recession and pandemic, middle class suffered a lot. People are all very, difficult,
Yeah.
financially. So ideally, to freeze the tax for a while, give people a break. And you know what? If the consumer has more money in their pocket, they will consume more. And then that's the, basic, I mean, momentum that you can have in the economy, so that the economy will be better and more better jobs.
Okay, let me ask you. You mentioned, and you're right about the real lever that you have being property taxes. But from time to time, there's been a discussion about giving new taxation powers to the cities, especially when we talk about city charters. Do you think they need new tax power?
I think, maybe it's a good idea, but it depends on whether we will get it. And I have the impression is that municipal level, council, and mayor don't have the final say on this, am I right? So
Correct.
yeah,
So no point talking about it anymore. Let's talk about the spending side of the ledger. So when you look at the spending side, do you think that they're spending too much, too little, or about right? Give me your sense of it.
so municipal level, it's not allowed deficit. So you basically, have to, spend within the means, within the revenue you have. And since, the economy is not good, all kinds of reason, our revenue is quite limited. And if they cannot, increase tax rate to tax more to fund these, expenditure, my way to think about it is that we have to make sure we spend money, more wisely and efficiently, focus on the priority things like project and programs, and we have to trim a little bit on those, program or project do not have the priorities. So I think overall, cities spend not that good. Some places they spend too much, and some places it's not necessary. And especially we are in the economic downturn so long. Let's focus on something that try to, develop the economy first to help to increase the revenue. Then we can talk about, spend more.
Okay, let me talk to you about the big ticket item on the operating side, which is wages, salaries, benefits, pensions. I want to talk about it on three levels because you've got the council member pay, you've got management, and then you've also got the front line. And I think on the issue of the front line, what happens with collective bargaining agreements is that they're negotiated over several years. And so you've got automatic increases that are pre-negotiated. You've got moving up the pay scale, which gives additional increases. And sometimes it puts the public workers out of step with what's happening in the general economy with the taxpayers. Because in the private economy, we've seen rollbacks, we've seen job losses, we've seen job sharing. So do you think that there's any need for us to take a look at trying to find some austerity on the front line for wages?
Okay, I think it's a very good question, but it's a very tough question.
Mm-hmm.
I work for, Crown Corporation. So basically, we are in the provincial government. We are
Okay.
provincial government employee. So during last 10 years, we had hiring freeze. We have, salary freeze. And the union also, negotiated with the provincial government, several times. And actually with different, government, NDP government, PC government, and the UCP government, right? So what I can see is that it's a good idea to negotiate it, but at the end of the day, even UCP government, they still try to work with the union because we still need to make sure the union, the workers, they have still have good, morale and try to deliver the services, right? In a good manner and high level quality. So what I'm thinking is that we need to improve the efficiency in the government. We need to make sure uh, streamline the working, process or procedure, and also hopefully we can improve the productivity. Right? We need to respect the, the workers, the employees, and in return they appreciate because I'm the I'm the government employee too, right? So for example, when I got, the job at the beginning of 2008. Okay, at that time, economy was so good, and because we are in the Ministry of Energy, Alberta, so many people jump to the industry. The pay is much better, you know. But right now, it's reversed. People all want to go back to government to find a better job, more secure job. So what I'm trying to say is that during the last, 13 years, we can feel that our workload actually increased dramatically. Okay, and I don't think union members or government employees really complain about this. We initially willing to work sometimes even overtime. During the pandemic, a lot of time we work from home and the efficiency is not there. We actually work longer than we work in office, right? But we appreciate we still have a decent job, right? We are the breadwinner of our family, so it's kind of interactive. So if the government employee is respected, they can contribute, and if the productivity increased, we can save a lot of money too. So it's good to negotiate, but we need to in a respectful manner.
That's all very good points. What about management? Because we often hear that there is too many managers, too many layers of managers. What's your observation on that? Is that a fair criticism, or do you think that there's something that needs to be done there?
uh, I'm not in the municipal government, so I can't say uh, this kind of criticizing is right or wrong. But what I'm saying is that from the management perspective, so my accounting designation is mainstream, is at the management accounting. So I would like to see whether there's room that we can, make the whole, management structure more down to the ground to make it, more flat, right? More efficient. If you have too many layers, it's kind of more, middlemen or more bosses. But we need to make sure the policy, the decision made on council level can be implemented and execute, efficiently and effectively. So if we have a flatter, management organization
Yeah.
structure, it's better.
All right. What about the council member? Do you think that the council members are paid fairly, or do you think they should take a cut?
Oh, that's a very tough question. I can give you example. I did some research. I figured out how much council got paid. The pay is similar to manager position in provincial government,
Okay.
not the senior manager position. And then I heard some complaint about the what do you call it? Multi pension for
Yeah,
the.
there's the overcap pension, there's a supplementary pension, there's a regular pension. So there are issues around the pension plan.
Yeah. So basically, people are complaining that why those counselors get, so many pensions, right? So we can definitely look into it. I'm quite open on these kind of, criticizing, and but basically, I just want to let you know, when I got a job in Alberta Petroleum Marketing Commission in 2008, the complaint is always that, the government can't retain good talent. They all go to the industry, right? So I want to say that the the pay for the counselor is similar to a manager position in provincial government,
Okay.
and we want to make sure we have good talent, and hopefully people more, business friendly, more professional in business or all kinds of aspects to come to the council, then help to, make Calgary prosperous again, to make better decision.
All right. Now you already mentioned the green line, and so let's move on to the other side. We talked about operating expenses a bit. I'd like to talk to you about capital expenses. So the problem with the green line, it had great buy-in when it was the full project, 40 kilometers. And it was going to be $4.7 billion. And it was funded by 3 levels of government, but it's not the same project today. And so now you've got a project that doesn't go either. It doesn't go to the far north, and it doesn't go to the far south. So you say that you've got a solution for that. What would it be? Because you could scrap it all together, you could redesign the project, or you could leave it as is, full steam ahead. So what would you want to do?
My assumption is that the decision has already made that we will go ahead with this green line. But the decision they just made by the city council is that they will stop at 16th Avenue, right? Which, doesn't make any sense for me, because the demand in the north, and if you only stop at 16th Avenue, basically it's an unfinished project. The whole Seatrain Green Line need to be fully occupied from the north point to the south point in order to reach the economic scale, and to really, to facilitate people for the, public transportation. And if you don't mind, I can give you example,
Yeah.
which is in the energy industry. For example, we are going to build a pipeline from Edmonton to West Coast. And I understand the problem with the Citroen Green Line is that it was, budgeted a long time ago. And after so many years, almost 10 years, the cost overrun. It's very normal, right? Same thing. When we involved as the Crown Corporation, the agent of the Crown, we involved a lot of, big projects. Cost overrun is very normal. Even in the normal days, 30% cost overrun is quite normal. But if you are telling all the stakeholders, like the government, oil producer, pipeline company, residents around the pipeline, and the creditor, loaner, lender, saying that, oh, sorry, because of this 10-year, inflation, whatever other reason, cost overrun, we can't build the whole pipeline. We're going to build only 70% based on the current, available, budget. And the rest 30%, how about we use the current capacity, like trucking, like railway, through by rail. Let's ship it from Edmonton to the West Coast. Do you think any, stakeholder will approve and agree with this? Let's say I'm the operator or the manager of this project. Do you think they will agree with me?
Probably not. I'm trying to imagine how you would move that much oil that way. It's almost hilarious the way you describe it. So what do you do instead?
So Citrine Green Line is here. And if you want people just get off the Citrine line and hop on a bus, even it's an express bus, right, to the north, I think it's not the feasible and realistic way to say that, we have these, good project in place. The best way to do it, I want to jump out of the box as what we do when we do, pipeline project in the energy industry. We need to find the budget. We need to figure out timeline to finish this project. It's not just to give the Calgarian an unfinished project.
Let me ask you, Jim, about this though, because I have heard that it's easier to build the South Line fully out because all the land has been acquired, and so a lot of the work has been done. Whereas in the North, I lived in the North, so there's already some really great bus routes, especially down Center and Edmonton Trail, and even 4th Street. I used to take the number 3 as an example. Like, is there some opportunity to do a BRT, bus rapid transit, instead of having LRT, or do you think that LRT is the only way to achieve the public transport goals?
Right now, we do have the express bus 301. 301 is similar to BRT already, right? But as you can see, the whole city in Calgary, all the directions has the C train. Have the C train: northeast, northwest, west, the south, and now for the green line. If the south leg finished, the southeast also have the C train. Why the north, the central north area is always overlooked? Why we do not deserve a C train? This C train was, was mentioned, more than 2 decades ago. When I at the door, people telling me that when they built a house in Panorama Hills before 2000, something like the late 90s, the promise is that C train will be on the way. And if you look at the green space before that, church on the intersection of 96th Avenue and Harvest Boulevard.
Yeah.
Okay. There was a sign saying that park and ride LRT. But after 2 decades, even that sign disappeared. Only 2 posts are still standing there.
Yeah.
And sometimes, candidates put that big sign on it. Right? Is it ridiculous? What I'm saying is that, during the last 2 decades, we still survive. We only have 301 Express, right? It's fine if you don't give us. But as the counselor of this War 3, I want to be the big voice to fight for the right thing and the fair thing for the people living in the North.
Okay, let me ask you about, thanks for the answer, I appreciate that. Let me ask you about some of the other infrastructure projects capital projects that were approved. So when these were put forward, they were all approved against the advice of the city CFO, who said they could only afford one of them. If you'd been at the table and had to prioritize, I want to know which one you would have thought should have been the top priority. So the event center built with the Calgary Flames, the BMO Center expansion for convention space, the Arts Commons transformation, or the Foothills Fieldhouse. What would you have put at the top of the list?
And I think the BMO Center expansion can be a good one, because we are losing a lot of major conventions because we are lack of this kind of facility. We have the TELUS conventions, in downtown, and then we also have this BMO Center there, but they're not big enough, right? And if we can invest on this project, which means we can bring in a lot of revenue, net benefits economically. So I think this is a good choice. Comparing other ones, I think, for example, the Arts Center, the Field House, they are not that urgent or having the priority. Then from the economics perspective, from the developing economics perspective, I think BMO Center expansion can have better benefits, net benefits, and can have benefits faster.
All right. Let's talk about housing issues. When I say affordable housing, what comes to mind for you? What's the most important thing?
uh, affordable housing. I think it's more about those people that they can't afford the rent, or you're talking about those people, they are low income, they can't afford to buy the single house on the market, so they try
You
to.
know what? It's both. So let's deal with both of them. So first, deal with the first, those who are living in poverty or homeless. How do you address that issue?
Actually, I have seen a building just finished in downtown. It's on, I think, close to the 8th Street, Fifth Avenue.
Okay.
Yeah, and this building is purposed just for those homeless, or I mean,
Hmm.
or those people who cannot afford the rent. And I think, I mean, city is doing some good job on this already.
Okay. What
Yeah.
about the so let's talk then about the first time home buyer because that's another affordability issue. And there is this tension in the community. Do you use existing communities and densify and build up because you have the existing infrastructure and there are larger lots, or do you build new greenfield development because you can have more greater density, but you don't have the same infrastructure, but it also allows for that first time home buyer to get a foothold in the market. How do you balance those issues off?
I think this is a very good question, because there are all kinds of buyers, or I mean, needs, right? So some people may prefer live in a more a high density place, like in downtown in condo building. Some people prefer to live in the suburb, which you have a bigger house and bigger yards. So, and even for, I mean, people in different age,
Yeah.
when I'm not married, we maybe you prefer to live in condo or apartment, because you needn't do any work like snow removal and grass cutting. And when you have a family, especially when you have kids, of course you prefer to live in a house with a yard, and have a more, I mean, good, I mean, facilities, less densities, I think, right? But from my perspective, I have to say that what I can see is that there's a lot of vacancy in downtown condo or apartment building, and same thing for the, I mean, land. As you can see in Wall Street, the north of Stony Trail, we have two new communities called Livingston and Carrington.
Hmm.
There's lots of, I mean, land undeveloped yet, and the north and the west, east side of this community, we have even more, I mean, land undeveloped. I think in northeast, southeast, there are a lot of, I mean, vacant land too within the city limits. So I think it's not a problem that to find some, I mean, suburb lots to build a house, but the cost is there. Although comparable saying it's much, I mean, cheaper live in Calgary than live in Vancouver and Toronto.
Hmm.
But what I'm trying to say is that it's not a big issue from my perspective, because everything is available. It just depends on the needs, and
Okay.
because we have bad, I mean, job market and economy, people are leaving. So we need to develop the economy. Back to my first, I mean, answer is that we need to, I mean, focus on the main problem, which is the job and economy. If we can have this, we can attract more people coming back, or I mean, retain people not leaving.
That makes sense. And then once the economy gets rolling again and more people get attracted, then you end up having the conversation about do you build up or do you build out to try to keep up with the demand. Let's
And and also we have the revenue. We have more revenue,
correct.
and basically we can afford to, I mean, to have more, I mean, suburb, I mean, space to develop. It's kind of, I mean, circle. We need to in the right track, not something saying that, oh, we can do this, we can do that because we don't have money for the fire department or whatever. It's, we need to find the main problem. Once the main problem is solved, all those minor problems can be easily handled.
All right, good point. Let's talk about just a few things that have come up in the last year. There has been a discussion about private delivery of public services, whether it's garbage collection or golf courses being contracted out for operations or snow removal. Generally speaking, do you support private sector delivery of public services?
I would like to say case by case. For example, you give me three examples, right? For the golf course, I think it's a very simple business. Definitely, we can, I mean, outsource it if there's net benefit. For the garbage collecting, I think it's an essential services. We need to see the numbers, and we need to evaluate uh, the private sector and the current, administration. So what I want to do first is that I want to see whether we can improve the efficiency within our current government. Is it possible that we can deliver service at a cheaper way, right? And then we compare with the government, service and cost with the private sector. If there's a substantial, net benefit, and if the private sector, they can provide good quality, good services, and there's no security issue or whatever, and they have good reference, good records showing that they can do the job on time, on budget. Yeah, I'm open to this kind of advice.
Okay, let me ask you about another issue. It's a movement that started in the last year or so that called itself "Defund the Police." What do you think that movement is about? What does it mean to you, and what do you think we should learn from it?
Actually, this is a very, important part in my priorities and platforms. I don't like this term, defunding the police. It is like, political term, take away from the core of the issues, right? So as as we all know, most the majority, police officers are very good people. They're trying to do a good job for the Calgarian. Of course, not different from other, organizations. There's a few, bad apples, right? And it happens. But we need to make sure that in order to deliver this kind of services, we cannot, defund, police. And I'm quite open to all kinds of initiative or to do the things in innovative way, right? For example, I heard the terminology called what do you call it? Dope, or program,
The dope teams, yeah.
yeah, or the pact program.
Yeah.
So they deal with those people who is addicted or those who has the mental illness, right? And I think it's a very good, they are very good initiative. And in order to, make the policing, more effectively, we should bring this kind of, program into the whole system to solve the problem more, perfectly. And actually, if we want to bring this program, we should allocate more funds into it. Yeah, that's my stand.
Okay. There is going to be another it's a related policing issue. I think you may have actually already addressed it, but why don't we address it again? The speed limits were dropped to 40 kilometers per hour. Did you support that idea?
Oh, that's a very interesting topic. So when I was door knocking in Wall 3, some people complaining that they don't like it because blah blah blah, and some people really, like it, right? So as I mentioned to you at the very beginning, one of the good things that Judy, the incumbent, has done in Wall 3 is that adding those, traffic calming measures. So I think those measures are very good alternative than than reduce the speed. But of course, to reduce the speed, there's a lot of, advantage on it. For example, uh, let's say in Sandstone, the Sandstone Drive, people always complaining that the road is so wide and there's nobody there, and drivers usually just go that fast, right? So sometimes we need to do something to make sure the safety is there, and within the community, we need to definitely make sure uh, people won't got, hit. And I'm open to all kinds of, measures, not only lower the speed limit.
Okay, let me ask you about the public art program because is the Big Blue Ring in your ward, or is that, I think it might be. There's also the Beaufort Towers. There've been a number of black eyes on the public art program. Are you happy with the changes that have been made? Do you think it's fixed, or do you think that a different approach needs to be taken to public art?
Oh, public art, it is important in a way, but I don't think it is a priority items in the current situation, right? So we are in pandemic, we are in, big, recession problem. We have a lot of things to fix first. So it's not our priority so far.
Okay. Final questions are around your role as an elected council member. There's a couple of direct votes happening in the fall on fluoride, on equalization. and on daylight savings. I'm curious to know, do you think that there should be more votes like this that go directly to the people? Or do you think that you should make more of the decisions yourself as the elected representative?
I think councillors are elected to make the decision. So what I propose is that we should do the councillor should do the consultation
Hmm.
with own wards, right? Then make the decision on behalf of the people living in their wards. But for certain big topic where or something very critical topic like Olympic bid, it's definitely it's worthwhile to have this kind of referendum.
Okay, final question. Sometimes we'll have a situation where the administration recommends one course of action. They say that's best for the city, but your constituents will want you to do something, do the opposite. What would you do in those cases?
I will always vote against any decision is harmful to Wall Street.
Hmm.
I will put Wall Street first. Of course, I'm quite open that if we need to trade away a lower priority item to gain a higher priority item. So I'm elected as the Wall Street councillor. I will work for the Wall Street and Calgary.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the conversation today. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
That is your candidate for Ward 3, Jun Lin.